Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we are moving a little more into gaming and doing WoW videos, that sort of stuff, whilst we're in the current climate. I'm playing it a little more. So this is the first video. We're taking a look at should you play WoW in 2020 and its latest expansion, Shadowlands. Now, realistically, everyone's got a ton of time on their hands. If you're abiding by the rules and you're in lockdown, I would say WoW right now is the perfect game to play just because of the amount of time you spend on it. Now you've got that kind of time, I think it works out perfectly. So I would say in that respect, it's worth it. But how is the game now? How is it different from... I know a lot of people probably played Wrath of Lich King, Burning Crusade. How is it different now? What have they added? What's the latest expansion like? Because that's obviously what you're going to be playing in. So let's take a look at that and my review of Shadowlands. So the most important thing was the release day. Maybe not for people now, because obviously that's past, but that is always important when it comes to a Blizzard expansion. And I've got to say, for this one in particular, it was probably the best I've played in. Obviously I had lag spikes here and there with the amount of people on the servers, it was bound to happen. But I would say for the most part, it ran kind of smooth. It was a little trouble before it started and then a little as I started playing. But I gotta say, there was no crashes, I wasn't kicked off. There was no queues that I experienced anyway. I haven't seen a lot of complaints online. So in terms of preparation, ready for the expansion, Blizzard knocked this one out of the park. What about in terms of content then? So obviously, before we get to the end game and stuff you can do then, the Tower of the Damned, raids, mythics, dungeons, all that kind of stuff. Some of which isn't out yet, so it's hard to say. But we're going to take a look at the leveling experience because you're going to be spending a lot of time doing that. It's going to be something a lot of people, not everyone necessarily experiences the end game, the raids and stuff. So we'll go through the different areas and what they will like and where I prefer. So if you've not already got a level 60, you'll be starting off in Bastion. If you do have a level 60, you do get the option to skip the storyline, so you don't have to do it on all your ults, which I think is a massive bonus. I was kind of dreading going through it all again, although now I've actually started it again and I'm running through my ults. I'm finding it quite difficult or slow to level up because you don't get the same quest lines. So I would say if you're trying to rush to 60, I would honestly suggest go through and play the quest lines. Even though you've already done it, you're going to level up a hell of a lot faster. So we kick things off in Bastion, which is sort of like a paladin holy area. It's very sleek looking, it's very minimalistic, it's white designs, light blues. In terms of how it looks, I think it's quite cool. I think the Valkyrie and stuff are good mobs and good, it's a good covenant. Would I pick there? Probably not. It's probably my least favorite of the four. The others just are a little more interesting, and even the questing in the area is kind of dull. There's a lot of stuff about memories which I don't find that interesting. You got repair memories, repair windows, do all kinds of stuff to help out. I'm not here to help out, I'm here to kick ass. So Bastion for me was probably the worst of the leveling areas. I don't think it was bad by any means in comparison to other expansions. I think Shadowlands is head and shoulders above the others. If you want to see it, I will do a expansion tier list, which I will probably do next, and rank which are my favorites in order. Let me know if you want to see that in the comments below. I will also be streaming Shadowlands this weekend, so if you want to check that out, it's twitch.tv/Rec Woody, so REC Woody, so it's the opposite of the channel name. But let's get back to the video anyway. So in the next area, I think it was Maldraxxus. There we go. So the next area is Maldraxxus. It's sort of an undead, not festive, festering type. There's plagues, there's disease. It's very different to Bastion. It's a lot different. There's a lot. Personally, I played it through on a hunter the first time. There was a lot of cool pets I could pick up. There was a lot of cool stuff to see. I definitely prefer this area more. Honestly, the way I'm going through this and the way you go up through it, it gets better as you go. So if you enjoyed Bastion, I think you'll love Maldraxxus. And then if you enjoyed that, I think you'll love the next one, which is the Fey Ardenweld. And then finally, you go over to Revendreth with the vampires, which is personally probably my favorite to quest in. although I think the Fae was quite cool as well. I'm trying to think of a more enjoyable leveling up experience. I do think because you can skip it afterwards, it does affect it slightly, but I don't think it ruins it at all. Yeah, Shadowlands for me has been one of my favorite leveling up experiences. I've just recently got back into the game, so yeah, it's been the perfect expansion. And if you are coming back in 2020 or 2021 now, we're almost at the end of the year, I would say this is absolutely the time to do it. Shadowlands is the expansion you want. BFA I would have swayed away. I didn't play during it. I didn't enjoy it. But yeah, I think it's worth coming back now. It is fresh. It's new. Covenants are a lot more interesting than garrisons and stuff like that. I would say if you're thinking about it, now is the time to do it. Now, there is actually an area before Bastion, which is the Moor. And that's sort of where this all takes place. You have to do that on any character. You have to play through that before skipping the storyline. It is quite annoying because I must have done it 3-4 times already. But I do understand why you have to. It is very story based. The lore is very important in this one, which I do like because I'm a massive fan of lore in general, but World of Warcraft in particular is probably my favorite. I've actually been playing through Warcraft 3 Reforged just to sort of recap on the Lich King, because I think he does play a big part in this. Obviously Sylvanas takes him out in the cinematic, but apparently there is something to do with Arthas, which could come back later in the story. Obviously it's not all developed yet, but a lot of people think it was actually the Jailer controlling him and inside his head with the Helm of Damnation. It's going to be interesting regardless. The Jailer is the big boss for this one. It is Sylvanas, powered up by him. Basically, if you don't know the lore or the story, if you don't want it spoiled, I'm going to give you a spoiler warning now, but we do need to talk about the story. So let's get into it. It's basically so whenever anyone dies, they go to the Moor, then they're sorted into the different houses like a sorting hat in Harry Potter. But now everything is staying in the Moor, everything's going to the Moor. Every time it happens, it's powering the Jailer up, it's powering Sylvanas up in turn. I'm not really sure what her plan is for this expansion. I'm getting a little tired of it always being about her, or her being such a prominent role or so powerful. I do think they could probably focus on other characters now, but I mean, I love the cinematics. I think what they did was incredible, so I am interested to see where this one goes. For me personally, the lore it's the best since I really enjoyed Legion, to be honest, and before that, Cataclysm was kind of cool. Wrath of the Lich King was the best we've ever had. So it depends what you like. I do think anyone who's into the lore and story, this one is heavily driven by it. So you will enjoy it if you're into that stuff. If you're not, probably not so much. So you've finally reached level 60. What have you got to do next? Obviously mythics and stuff like that haven't unlocked yet, but you can do the dungeons, you can do heroics, which I would suggest doing. The new dungeons are very cool. Some very cool bosses and ways to get around. I won't ruin it, but there's some with like interesting mechanics to even advance in the dungeon. I do think you need to read the adventure guide or have a look how the dungeons work before running them, because they can be quite confusing. There are mechanics to them which I do enjoy. It should be difficult, it should be rewarding, and they definitely are. Personally, the design of them, they're not my favorites. I think we've had better in even the bad expansions. So the dungeons don't stand out for me personally. Maybe you guys enjoy them. Let me know in the comments your favorite dungeon or what you think of the expansion so far. But that's not all. You've also got the Tower of the Damned, which is where I've been spending a ton of my time. If you enjoy any of those roguelike games like Slay the Spire or Hades, you're going to absolutely love this. So basically, you start on a floor up to 8, which obviously get more powerful as you go up. And when you enter, you'll be given a power. You can choose from 2 or 3 normally. And as you go up, you gain more powers. There's random bosses, there's random monsters, there's random puzzles. It's just an interesting take on something we've never had in Warcraft before. And I do think it adds massively to the game, the replayability, the end game. So even if you're not into raids, if you're not into all the other stuff, this is something that you can do. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with 1 friend, 2 friends. You can do it 5-man. So it is interesting that you can do it with all these different people. So even if you play alone, There is content, there is end game stuff for you now. And I think it's important they add that kind of stuff. You do still get to face a boss, and there are mechanics to the bosses, so they are interesting. I wish there was a bit more lore to it and a little more... I don't know, it's missing something. It feels very... It can feel very samey, so I would like something different just to spice it up a little. I'm not sure what they could do. I think maybe lore for every random encounter would be difficult. Yeah, I hope they keep expanding on it and adding more characters to it, but it will be interesting to see what they do. For me, personally, Shadowlands is a top-notch expansion. It would be in my top half of expansions. Honestly, it's not going to beat out like Wrath of Lich King and stuff, but I will do a tier list on this. My next video will be a tier list of the expansions, and we'll break down what I think of each. But let me know what you think of each in the comments, and let me know if you do want to see that video. Obviously, I'll be streaming, like I said, this weekend, so if you want to catch that, make sure you check the link in the description below. But that is my review of Shadowlands, and if you should be playing WoW in 2020, which is an all-round yes. We're not going to get into all the class stuff and your specific classes, because there's like 3-4 specs for each for some of them, and there's so many different covenants, so there's so many different variations, which is another great thing. You could build a feral druid in 4 ways. You could build any class in so many different ways now. I think it is interesting, but also it's not game breaking. These powers aren't going to change your class and make it something else. It's just a little twist, so you're a little bit different to, say, the Fey Druid or something like that anyway. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you are enjoying the WoW stuff, the gaming stuff, make sure you subscribed, and I will see you in the next one.